Hi there, Lara here. I'm gonna do a sequence for neck and shoulders today. So starting by bending your knees, taking the feet together and the knees apart, wrapping elbows around knees, and getting a good grip. And you could hold a fist with one hand, you could do interlaced fingers, you could hold a strap or a stick or something like that. Press the knees out, squeeze the forearms in, lengthen the spine up. Try to use your feet the same amount. Think neutral neck, not bringing the head forward, not bringing the head back, not looking up, not looking down, not looking one way, not looking the other, but right in the middle. Fix your gaze or close your eyes and concentrate on stillness. While you're holding, I'll give you a little visual as to the way the posture looks from the side. Generally, we tend to round the back quite a bit here. So we pull with the forearms and we think about lengthening the spine. Maybe even lifting and lengthening the spine up away from the pelvis. Now switch your grip, opposite hand holding opposite fist, or opposite interlacing, and so on. Lungs expanding, lungs contracting. More deep breaths. And slowly releasing the arms, extending the legs, relaxing the legs, the spine. I'm going to show you two different ways to do a similar movement next. So here we're looking to create flexibility in the legs and strength in the mid-back while we create flexibility in the shoulders and such. So we take our feet together, hands beside us, lengthen the spine. Fingers can be apart or together, either or. One tends to be more difficult than the other, depending on the person, which one it is. Hands slide back a comfortable distance, and you bend your elbows so that your shoulders are more or less over your hands, and you can glance if you like, but really it's more important, is it extremely uncomfortable? Is there any pulling? Is there any tugging? Is there any pain? If there is, then you change the position to suit you better. You can change how your hands are positioned or how far back you go with your hands, how much you bend your elbows, etc. Think about not letting the elbows go wide, not letting them squeeze as close together as possible, but so they're right behind your shoulders. Push into your hands firmly. Think about lifting the chest and the abdomen. Point your toes. Flex your feet. Do this a few times. And then point and lift the right leg. Lower the right leg. Lift the left. Lower and lift. And go slowly, no swinging, no momentum. It does not matter how high you lift your legs. Over time, if you do it frequently, you will gain more flexibility and the legs will lift higher. The strength aspect is also important. As you gain more strength, again, you'll be able to lift the legs more so. Try not to allow the upper body to move about, but think about it remaining as still as possible. Depending on how challenging or how easy it is, you can do both legs together if you like. But if you do both legs, you try not to let anything else change as a result. Either one more with each leg, like single legs, or one more with both together. Release your arms, relax your legs, relax your spine. Good. And then bend your knees, roll over the toes. You may want to fold over the front of your mat. Come onto the knees, have the knees and ankles a short distance apart, so a hips distance apart approximately, hands on the hips. Step your right foot forward, feet as wide as hips. Spread your toes. Think right hip back, left hip forward. And if you're not sure, go back and forth a few times, then you'll be able to feel the difference. You want your hip bones equal distance from the front of your mat. Abdomen lifts, spine lifts, elbows squeeze towards one another. Lift the abdomen, lift the chest. So this one might seem that it's more oriented for the legs and for the ankles, the hips, and so on. What it's really teaching us is how to keep the upper body stable and still when we're doing something that requires balance with the lower body. It also is keeping our hands on our hips and squeezing our elbows towards one another, which creates a stretch in the front of the body, the shoulders, the chest, etc. Think about drawing the ribs together and back and maybe lengthening them up if that is available to you. 10 more breaths. And I'll move back a little bit, so if you want to do something a little more intense with the shoulders, you're having a good shoulder day, you could also, instead of having your hands on your hips, take your fingers to interlace, like so, and then take the hands to the base of the skull and draw the elbows so they're a shoulder's distance apart. This is a really nice variation as well, as is clasping the opposite elbow. Those would be really great ways to do more if your body was feeling great, your neck in particular, and you wanted to go a little deeper. All right, so from here, hips go back, foot goes back, other foot comes forward. Remember, if it's tricky to step forward and back, use a couple blocks, right? Another way to do the same thing. Left foot comes forward, feet a hips distance apart, hands on hips, left hip drawing back, right hip drawing forward, not letting the hips go one way or the other, but think about squeezing the outer hips towards one another, lifting the abdomen, lengthening the spine. Either sticking with the preparatory action with the hands, elbows squeeze together, shoulder heads root back. Maybe the ribs can lengthen a little bit more and back. If you're needing more, you can interlace fingers, opposite thumb and forefinger on top, hands to the base of the skull, elbows would draw towards one another and up. We're not lifting the shoulders, we're letting those upper arm bones sink. Another option would be opposite crossing of the forearms as last time, depending on what works for you, right? These are all optional add-ons if you need it. It's 5 more deep breaths. And slowly releasing the hands to the ground or stepping back with the hands on the hips if you like. And then from here, tuck your toes under, bring your hips nice and close to your heels, and extend the shoulders. Here you can rest the forehead if it feels comfortable. You can stack the palms under the head, or the fists under the head, or a block under the head. If letting the head hover feels available, then letting the head hover. Think about lengthening hips away from shoulders and vice versa. Space between shoulders and ears stays the same. Good, and then coming on to hands and knees, stretching right toes, stretching left. Thinking about that tabletop position, external, internal rotation. And then think external rotation upper arm, internal rotation of lower arm. A few shoulder push-ups. Upper arm bone sinks into socket and then pulls out of socket. And then find extension, no tension. So not all the way in, not all the way out, but right in the middle so it's easy to move your neck. Same with the arm rotation. 6 of this, half a dozen of that, right in the middle. Now from here, round the back, tuck the chin, press the floor away. Lift the gaze, lift the sit bones, look up. Round the back, tuck the chin, press the floor away. Lift the gaze, lift the sit bones, look up. And then neutral spine, pointed feet, circles. Change direction. And then stop with the circles. From here, we're going to do a few movements with the arms. So tucking toes under, reaching the right arm forward, palm facing floor. Think space for the shoulders and neck. One hip isn't further forward than the other. Out to the right. Internally rotate. Good. And then bender. Take the back of the hand to the low back, or maybe you can lift it up. Now don't let everything sink, but see if you can find as much lift as you can without any tension in the neck. Slowly extend, palm facing floor, sweep it forward, release. And then I'll turn sideways so you can see this from the other angle. Hands as wide as shoulders, toes tucked, left arm reaching forward, not letting the sides of the body change. Take it out to the left, internally rotate, bend your elbow, hand can touch lower back or hover above lower back perhaps, not letting one side shorten. Slowly extending, neutral rotation, bring it forward, release. And then from here, we bring our hips nice and close to our heels, just like we did before. And now if we want more, we lift our knees and we lengthen the spine. And I'll show you from this side. Trying to keep the knees bent, think about lifting the sit bones, see if you can find more of a neutral pelvis here. And remember, it doesn't matter, like yes, we can straighten our knees, fine. We know we can straighten our knees, that's not an issue. If we can bend our knees a little bit in order to find something else, it's useful. Think about the hip bones, sit bones lifting and lengthening, rib cage lifting and lengthening, forearms lifting. Upper arm bones have space between, there's no crunching into the neck. 10 more breaths. And then when you're ready, taking a child's pose, the knees rest. The knees are a little bit wider, the toes are pointed, the toes are touching. You can extend your arms. You can have just the fingertips resting. This would be more challenging. If you find palms flat is too challenging, it's too intense, or you get any pain, you can stack your fists under your head. Not letting the shoulders crowd the ears, but thinking space here. So not letting the shoulders do this, but thinking space in the neck. You could also use a block under the head. Same concept, except the fingertips rest instead. And you might want the elbows slightly further forward, but again, you're thinking shoulder heads lifting, lengthening the neck. And we're not letting there be a really exaggerated bend into the neck or an exaggerated flattening into the neck. We want a neutral neck. So if we closed our eyes and opened our eyes, we'd be looking straight at the floor. We wouldn't be looking toward the front of the mat or the back of the mat. 10 more deep breaths in your child's pose. And then coming forward onto hands and knees when you're ready, stretching the toes away from you, the heel away from you, the toes away from you, the heel away from you. And then from there, pardon me, let's come to sit on our shins. So you can either sit directly on the feet if that happens to be comfortable, or you can sit on a block or 2 or 3. Then you would put them between your feet like so, squeeze the block, and then sit back on that height. And then we're going to take our fingertips to our shoulders and do some forward circles with our elbows. And here we're looking not to have the spine move back and forth, but think about the pelvis being still, the shoulders maintaining stillness. Oh, sorry, the rib cage. Your shoulders, of course, are moving, but we're trying not to let the upper back move as a result. Change direction, going backwards. Keeping the gaze fixed, trying not to let the neck lift and lower either. Good. And then extending the arms, fingers together if you can, and I'll show from the side and then from the front. We're going to internally rotate, bend the elbows, stack the palms, straighten the arms, and then stack the palms the other way. And we're just going to go back and forth a few times. Right palm closer to you, left palm closer to you. And you can do the version I'm showing where you keep your hands from touching your back, or you can do a version where they do not. So if you touch your back with the hands, it's going to be more difficult for some of us. If you let the hands come away from the back or pull them away from the back, it'll be more difficult for others of us. So it really depends on the human. And then maintaining both hands at the back, whichever hand on top you like, root elbows forward, back, every direction, lifting the abdomen, right ear to right shoulder. Left ear to left shoulder, shoulder. Back to center, switch. Which palm is on top? Right ear to right shoulder. Left ear to left shoulder. Back to center, release, and bring yourself forward. Hands and knees, stretching right toes, stretching left toes. Good. Once you've sufficiently done so, you're going to come over the feet. Fingertips walk to you, lift the knees, one hand behind, other hand behind, lower down. Bring the feet in front. And then from here, we're going to sit cross-legged. So right knee, left knee bending, right leg in front of left, walk the feet wide. If you can find a lift in the ankle, find a lift in the ankle. If they fatigue, they fatigue. Sit up on some height if you've got the feet closer than the knees. Abdomen lifting, chest lifting. Now we're going to look for a little twisting action without letting the pelvis move. And just to start, move your pelvis a whole bunch and then you can see the difference. Going back and forth, tilting, imprinting, arching. And then one hip further forward than the other. And just notice how that changes everything. More weight on one hip than the other. And again, it changes everything. You can see the rib cage moves a lot, the shoulders move a lot. And then coming back to center, think about keeping the pelvis quite still. Hands touch in front of chest, twisting towards the right, twisting towards the left. Think about keeping neutral neck, shoulder heads aren't changing. And then hold to the right. And remember, if you need to rest your hands, you can, but ideally don't use your hands. That way the rib cage will become very strong and will support the neck and shoulders more effectively. Now to the left. Think about pulling those femurs in. Try not to let the hips get too mobile. And come back to center, release your hands, lift your knees. Switch which leg is in front. If you need to move your ankles in between, move your ankles in between. Lengthen spine, try to find a lift in the ankle if possible. Now take your right arm up outside your ear. Take your left arm out to the left, palm facing back. Bend your elbow. Bend your other elbow. See if you can grab your fingers. And even if you can grab your fingers, let go. So now your hands are hovering. Now see if you can hold here, thinking about reaching the elbows in opposite directions, reaching the fingertips towards one another without actually touching them. If you can take your hands away from the back and have them hover a little bit, then do. And I'll turn around so you can see what that looks like. So rather than grabbing the fingers, oops, all the way back, like so, I'm going to try to have them apart or maybe even hover the hands from the back a little bit. Pressing the rib cage toward that bottom forearm if you can. Trying not to bend the wrist in any direction. It's very tricky to do because we cannot see our hands. We do the best we can with our mind's eye. 5 more breaths. And then when you're ready, release completely. Take the left arm up as the right palm faces back. Think of an external rotation of the top arm, internal rotation of bottom arm as you bend to grab. And you might grab it first for a moment just to find it. You might use a strap or a stick or a bit of fabric, whatever you've got handy, to find that connection. And then think about squeezing the fingers as you pull the elbows apart. Right shoulder head works back, left shoulder head works forward. And then if you haven't yet, release your hands. And if they haven't touched in the first place, then you're ahead of the curve. Think elbows reaching away from one another, lengthening the neck, connecting to the rib cage, not letting the rib cage pop, but pulling those ribs back and up perhaps. Thighs rooting down as those ankles lift. Releasing the arms. Let the palms face up. And if I'll just move this way so you can see this a little bit. Yes, and let's just go back and forth actually. This one's quite nice. Good. And then back to center, fingers draw towards you, pulse them a few times, slight bend in your elbow. You're not letting your elbow straighten as much as it can. There's a tiny bend. Shoulder heads are sinking. Right ear to right shoulder. Left ear to left shoulder. And remember, you can drop your arms whenever you like. Don't let the shoulders creep up. Right ear to right shoulder again. Left ear coming down. Think neutral neck, forehead rooting forward, back of the head rooting back in equal proportion. Once more, right ear to right shoulder. This time if you want to turn your chin towards your shoulder a little bit, do. Head back through center, other ear comes down, rotate chin toward shoulder if you like. Head through center. Release the arms, deep breath. And then from here, we'll take a last twist. Back of right hand to lower back, left fingertips on the knee, left knee. Lengthen the spine, keep the femurs engaged, pull those outer hips towards one another, twist towards your right. If you want to slide the back of the right hand to the waist or the hip and so on, feel free. If you want to move your left fingertips to the right knee, go for it. Fix your gaze beside or behind you. Do not move into the neck unless it feels good. Speaking from experience as someone who used to suffer severe neck pain and now no longer feels any neck pain at all, it's really important not to bend into the neck or stretch into the neck when it's really bothering you. Move into the shoulders, move into the spine, move into the sides of the body, etc. Perhaps even the wrists, the legs, the hips, and so on, but avoid the areas that really are hurting. Don't go too far if an area is bothering you. Don't like fidget and fidget and fidget and fidget. It's a really hard habit to break, but it's worth it. Unwind slowly. Back of left hand to low back, right hand on right knee. Lengthen, think neutral neck, not forward, not back, neutral as you can. It's a work in progress for all of us. Twist to your left. If you want to slide the left hand, you can. Abdomen's lifting in and up. Maybe your right hand travels, maybe it stays where it is. Fix the gaze once you found your depth. Pulling those femurs in, especially right femur. Armpits lifting. And remember, try not to fidget. Once you've found a position for your neck that works, try to keep it. Try not to move without necessity. And some days you'll keep your chin directly in line with the sternum or the center of the chest. Sometimes you'll look the opposite way you're twisting. Sometimes you'll look the way you're twisting. A little bit or as much as you can. It depends on the day. Don't force it one way or the other. Give yourself options. And honestly, the more different ways you can move your body, the better. You want your movement to be sustainable throughout your lifetime. Unwind slowly, support your knees, lifting one and then the other. Extend the legs, move the ankles. And there we are. So from here, we're going to come down onto the back and take a little bridge pose or setu bandha. I'll show it to you in a few different angles. All right, so first from this angle, feet at hips distance apart approximately. Block, push into your feet, lift your hips, take your block underneath your pelvis at the low height or the medium height or the high height. Push into your arms, lift your chest, press into your shoulders. Fingers can be spread, fingers can be together. Think external rotation of upper arm, internal rotation of lower arm to create a very strong elbow. Now I'll show you from another angle. It's easier to see from the side, this one. So again, block handy, push into your feet, lift your hips, take your block underneath the pelvis at the low height. Or if you need more, you can flip it higher. That's an option, but don't do it unless it feels good. Press into your shoulders, palms, fingers. I would resist the urge to turn the head here or fidget the neck here. Chest is lifting, abdomen is lifting. Choose whatever feels better, spreading or squeezing fingers. If you need more, you can walk the legs closer together. You can walk the legs farther away. You can practice crossing one leg or the other if you like. Just make sure whatever you do, it feels good and you don't force or strain the spine. Think of the front ribs drawing together and rooting down. Think of the inner groins connecting. You could even add a block between your thighs if you wanted to. Think about lifting the armpit up towards the ceiling as the front of the shoulder comes toward the floor. The whole circumference of the palm roots, particularly the base of the thumb, the base of the index finger, but I imagine the whole circumference of that palm is like a suction cup, and eventually you'll feel the center of the palm lifting. We call this Hasta Bandha. Just like the arch of the foot eventually lifts, Pada Bandha. 10 more breaths. ready to come out of the posture, move slowly, move gradually. And there's one important rule when it comes to Setu Bandha. So we lift 3 times before we remove the block. We push into our feet, our shoulders, our foundation. We lift up, we come down. We lift up, we come down. We lift up, we remove the block, use our arms, and lower as slow as possible. 1 disc at a time. We try not to let the shoulders change as we change the spine. Once you're all the way down, you can extend your legs. You can hug your legs. You can go side to side. Some people like to go a little side to side with their knees. You can choose any movement you need to make or want to make. Once you've sufficiently stretched your back, then coming into your Shavasana. And for Shavasana, please take at least 7 minutes. As much time as you can handle. A good 15 minutes would be ideal. Take care. Have a great day.